So the Church Commissioners data shows that we invest less per head of population on the estates than any other part of the country, and yet church life there is declining faster than anywhere else, and church going is about half the national average. We also know from anecdotal evidence that the challenges that many clergy and lay leaders face in keeping church life healthy on the estates. Clergy there often feel isolated, PCCs feel guilty because they're constantly told they're being subsidised, church leaders face enormous challenges dealing with very vulnerable people and sustaining patterns of growth and healthy church life. So it's tough, and it's not anyone's fault, but through countless decisions made by countless people, church life on the estates is getting weaker and weaker, and within 10 years it will simply have disappeared altogether. Today we've got to think, how do we turn that round? How do we renew the life of the church on these estates? So we've got a gathering of about 80 practitioners, clergy and lay people who've all got a story to tell. Some tough stories, they found it hard. Others good, upbeat, confident stories because they've made something work on the estates. So our plan today is to listen to those stories, to talk to each other and to challenge the church and say, how do we reinvest in these areas? How do we make the estates the test tube for really innovative experiments in urban ministry? And how do we renew the church in these areas and become a poor church for the poor?
And so there must be social justice, there must be food banks, clothing banks, support for refugees, Acts 4:35, safe families for children, debt and money advice. These things aren't evangelism in and of themselves, but they are mission. And they lead us to the use words bit, the evangelism bit where it all comes together in the gospel of Jesus. Almost all of the events we put on at our church involve food, and lots of it because people are hungry. We buy more food than we need so that we can send the neediest people home with bags of it at the end.
What is it we're asking people to aspire to? Is it a better aspiration than the things that consumerism and materialism and individualism have offered? Or is it actually something that's more about breaking the solidarities of class, to jump over a different kind of wall and no longer be among people like us, to be people like the people of the estate? What is it we're trying to do? Can we combine that reverence for solidarity with the call of atonement to live differently?
And maybe this is all around creating the conditions for evangelism at a structural level. Parishes and clergy who are supported, fulfilled, in good heart, staying for longer, skilled at and committed to estates ministry.
It was also really helpful having other people in workbooks and on the telly through DVDs giving ideas about change other than just me saying what needs to change. Really helpful. Helen and I began to attend some of the groups that met in the attached community centre, such as the parent and toddler groups, so that we could get to know people. 6 months later, when we started a midweek toddler service, we were able to invite people who we already then had relationships with.
The thing we don't talk about in terms of growth is money. We have a strapline on our website, a Christian presence in every community. It depends very much what you mean by Christian, what you mean by presence, and what you mean by community. This conference is an embodiment of the Church of England's commitment to try to be that thing. And I just want to tell you how fragile it feels. In the rural parishes, in the inner urban parishes, in the estate parishes, if we aren't growing, there's nothing to redistribute. If there's nothing to redistribute, we fall back on a congregational model of self-sustaining, self-supporting congregations in a few places.
Let's be clear with each other what we mean by growth, because I think that what I want to have as a voice in all of this is what people on the estates would say that growth looks like, and not to be told what growth is about. And then I would also want to ask, and how do we measure it? What are the criteria of evaluation against which we hold before God what we call growth?
One of the things that happened when the growth was really happening was that we applied for some funding from the Archbishop's Council. I was conscious that if we were going to sustain this level of community engagement, I needed some help. We didn't get that funding because our growth had not been over a sustained period. It had been over quite a short space of time, which of course is a very wise decision. But it's a bit like the chicken and egg thing, isn't it? That if you don't then have that support for that growth, then actually you are in danger of losing it again. I had a real vulnerable lay team, so I was desperately trying to grow and support a team of lay ministers who were fantastic, but I just could not have predicted how difficult life was for those people.
I think what they've identified, which is really brilliant, is that in certain estates and certain church plants, they're really good guys who know what they're doing, that they have interaction within their community, they know how to reach people. But perhaps they need a little bit more training, a little more help. And I think what they've identified is that if you find the right appropriate person, you can do the appropriate training that they need in their vicinity to make their church better, help it grow. And I think that's the best way we can go about answering your question. Find the right people in the right estate doing their church plan, help them, give them a feet up. So it turns around church, so you manage it from the bottom upward rather than the top down. Does that make sense?
Now, what I hear today is a massive commitment to place. Some people don't have the option of sitting light to place because that's the place they've been put and that's the place they'll stay because there's no way over the wall in their heads. Those who minister to them are committed to place, and I hope not so much to doctrine, because what I've heard today is precisely about that melding together of an age of atonement and an age of incarnation. Two of our key Christian doctrines, and you are working those out together by being there, by affirming, by building, and by calling to something else.